Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Light Sports Ramble. As I told you, very special night. Have my co-host with me, Evan Watallison, who is going to co-host the Light Sports Ramble every Thursday. And we're going to recap Packer football from the previous Sunday, and then we're going to talk about the game coming up on Sunday. I'm a little disappointed in all my followers, though. I tweeted about 4 times. Send your questions in so Evan and I can discuss them on the Ramble. So again, you prove to me that you don't read my tweets during the day. But all's good because I have Evan with me on the phone. We're going to get into some Packer football, and this should be a great episode. So Evan, take it away. Let's talk some Packer football today.
Yeah, definitely. Looking back at the game Sunday, a couple things stood out to me. It's disappointing that they lost, but they stood toe-to-toe with the defending NFC champion, and I believe they were 5.5-point underdogs. Most people weren't even giving them a chance to compete, let alone have the lead in the fourth quarter. So there were a lot of encouraging things. Rodgers looked sharp. Nelson looked sharp. Cobb looked sharp. Those were 3 guys a lot of people were concerned about coming in with lack of reps in training camp and in games. People were concerned with how they were going to look. The defensive line contained the run really well, as did the linebackers. Frank Gore had nowhere to run. Kaepernick had nowhere to run. But a lot of discouraging things, too, and the big one was the tackling. Nate McMillan, he struggled. Not Nate McMillan. McMillan struggled significantly stopping the pass, tackling the receiver, just getting the receiver to the ground. He had a number of missed tackles, a number of blown assignments. Still being a young guy, put in a tough spot, but I was hoping to see something a little better out of him. And the middle linebackers didn't cover the middle of the field very well at all. The middle of the field was wide open all game. And once again, running the football, which has been an issue for a number of years now, was still an issue.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you bring up some good points. And we'll start with McMillan. I mean, you and I talked about it before we started the episode. We talked about the loss of Morgan Burnett. He is a key component in that backfield. Without Burnett back there, I thought the secondary looked really confused, and I thought they were out of position a few times. And I think being out of position was part of the reason that they missed a lot of tackles because the assignments were wrong. And I don't know if that was pre-snap or if it was just because they didn't have their leader back there, but they really looked confused back there. I don't know what you thought about that, Evan, but it just looked like that defense, they got scorched because they just seemed confused back there.
Yeah, that Capers went in with the game plan, as we were all seeing, is they were going to force Kaepernick to beat them with the arm. But, on Wednesday and Thursday, Morgan Burnett as a full goal in practice, and, they're installing the game plan, they're practicing it, they're getting ready for Sunday, and then on Friday, all of a sudden, he doesn't practice. And McMillan has to step in there in his place, and all of a sudden his status is up in the air. And then, Sunday comes around, and now he's not playing. So, McMillan pretty much had one day to prep to, get ready to basically be the communicator back there at safety to do the Morgan Burnett role. So I think losing Morgan Burnett like that had a lot to do with why the safeties, especially McMillan, struggled so much. Now, if Burnett is unable to go again this week and his status is up in the air, I think they'll be a little more prepared. But I think that killed them against the 49ers, not having their quarterback. And, that's what you had said when we were talking before, the quarterback of the defense.
Yeah, I mean, he's the guy that's reading everything, getting everybody in the right position, whether it's zone, whether it's man. I mean, Morgan Burnett's been in that defense now for a little bit, and he knows it really well. And I agree with you. At least, if they're practicing this week and McMillan has a chance to practice and get comfortable back there, hopefully we won't have the same results. But I also think – oh, go ahead.
I'd say hopefully not. Fortunately, Burnett returned to practice yesterday, but was limited. He did practice again today. So, we'll see what he does tomorrow. But, yeah, hopefully, McMillan will be better prepared.
Yeah, at least he's probably going to get some of the first-team reps You know, like you're saying, getting thrown in there just, you know, I mean, they get paid a lot of money and we expect them to be prepared, but you and I both know you go in preparing to have a certain role in a game, and when that role is changed significantly like it was for McMillan, that's a big surprise, and it does put a wrench into a lot of things. So, you know, we'll see what happens. But I'm going to touch on something else here, Evan, is, you know, we talk about, okay, the secondary was a little bit confused. But I also think we gave Kaepernick way too much time. We didn't get a lot of pressure on him. And again, we were talking about this. The time that Kaepernick had, he had time to tear us apart. Now, I think he's a good quarterback. He's got all the tools to maybe be one of the best in the league someday. But that said, he still had way too much time, in my opinion. I mean, I think we stopped the run okay, but I think we really need to figure out how to get a better pass rush up front. What do you think?
You know, I'm confused on why exactly he had so much time to throw. I don't know if it was the way Capers is scheming, because he didn't, you know, when you face a quarterback like Kaepernick, if he, you know, with his speed, his vision, if he has even the slightest alley, he's going to take it and he's gone, as we saw last January. I don't know if it was Capers the scheming in order to, you know, everyone stay in your lanes, just don't give up your rush lane, force him to have to stay in the pocket and throw, or could it possibly be, again, with the loss of Morgan Burnett, you know, one of the big blitzes that they did quite a bit in the preseason is sending Hyde off the edge. They weren't able to do that, you know, those blitzes, because, again, they didn't have the safeties, you know, the safety back there to, you know, to cover the deep side of the field, so they had to keep more people in coverage. I don't know what it was. Part of me, I think it's a combination of the two, especially, you know, Capers is, I think, terrified of Kaepernick going for a $180 on the ground again.
Yeah, I mean, we all know that was the big thing going in, that McCarthy and Capers were not going to be embarrassed again. They were not going to let Kaepernick beat us with his legs. And so
he embarrassed them through the air, though.
Yeah, I mean, he tore us up through the air. And so I think you bring up a good point, though. Was it the scheme? Because there was did we even have a sack in the game? Yeah,
I had a couple.
Yeah, and I think one was because Kaepernick ran out of bounds. And I think...
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think Matthews had one. But it wasn't anything significant where we were putting pressure on him. You know how it is, when we can get pressure on the quarterback, we can force that quarterback to get happy feet. And
then the quarterback can be more prone to force things into coverage, which Kaepernick did not do. You know, because the guys on the outside recovered pretty well, outside of Bolden and Davis, and most of Bolden's damage came attacking that middle. Outside of those two, the receivers for the 49ers didn't do anything much at all. They had sorry about that. You know, the corners on the outside did relatively well. It was the middle of the field that got exposed, and I think it had to do more with the scheme, but also the D-line didn't put any pressure on either. You know, and Dayton Jones especially kind of disappointed me a little bit. I know it's his first ever game, but I was expecting a little bit more. Yeah,
I'll agree with you there. I was all hyped up to see this guy and his motor and these big hits and all these things from Jones, and nothing. Nothing. And again, first game, but, you know, again, too, we don't know what Capers wanted to do with that scheme. But I agree with you. Bolden got his catches and did his damage in the middle of the field and really exposed a weakness. And again, hopefully we're right in that when we get Burnett back, that we can tighten the middle of that field up. And maybe that'll open up, maybe it'll open up some blitz packages, because when I look at it, either the 49ers really had a good blocking scheme, but we just couldn't get any pressure on Kaepernick. And, you know, the other thing is, too, I was kind of surprised. They didn't even have to run the read option. Did they even, they ran it, maybe twice?
Yeah, I didn't really keep a close tally on how often they ran it. because they didn't run them much, so they didn't really stand out to me. They did run the pistol quite a bit, but they were throwing quite a bit out of the pistol, or they would get in the pistol formation and then shift out of it. But I don't recall them running the read option very often.
Yeah, I didn't think they ran it much. But as I look at the time, I'm looking at, I got to make sure we stay within our 15 minutes so we can publish. We're at the 10-minute mark. So let's take a quick preview of this week's game. I mean, home opener, RG3 coming in. And we had talked about it a little bit. RG3's coming off that major knee injury. I thought he showed a lot of toughness in that Monday night game. But also, too, the thing that, I'm going to look at is short week for him, so shorter recovery time. And he did take some hits. You and I were talking about it. But I don't think he took any hits to that knee. So my take on this is, I think we got to keep hitting RG3, make him test that knee. Because as I was telling you, before we got on the ramble, I had major knee surgery done, and it took me a good year and a half to mentally get back. Physically, I was okay after about a year. But mentally, when I played, it was still lingering in my head about cutting on it, about staying away from contact, and trusting that knee. So I'm not sure if he is fully emotionally over the injury. I mean, physically he looked okay, but maybe not mentally. So, I think the big key to this game is how do we contain RG3 and not let him beat us? And how do you think the Packers are going to do that this week?
I think the Packers need to do the opposite of what they did with Kaepernick, and that might sound crazy because, RG3, he's a 4'4", 140 quarterback. But I think they got to do the opposite. They got to go after him. They got to send the house. They got to send blitzes. They got to get in his face because he didn't respond well to pressure against the Eagles on Monday. It took him a while to get used to that pressure. And when I was watching him do his rollouts and stuff, he wasn't moving very well. So I think they need to force, RG3 needs to show them that he can win with his legs before they not go after him. And I think they just have to go after RG3. Send Matthews, send Micah Hyde, send Perry, send Hawk, send them. Send a lot of different blitz packages and everything.
Yeah, the thing I saw, and you can agree or disagree with me, and maybe you saw the same thing. That Monday night game, where I saw the success the Eagles had, I saw the blitz up the middle. And they came right up the middle, and they just brought the house up the middle, and RG3 couldn't react to it. I saw it a couple of times.
Yeah, he couldn't react to it, and then there was a couple of times he was trying to hit that edge, and they were able to cut him off. And RG3 last year would not have gotten cut off.
Yeah, and I think that's an attribute to that knee. And, again, could be physical, could be mental. But I agree. I think we got to turn up the blitzes. And the thing is, if we have Burnett back, I think we see a lot more blitzing. Without Burnett, though, I don't know what Capers is going to do. I mean, we might have to just say, hey, we got to trust McMillan back there that he's going to know the assignment and he's not going to get burned because, like Kaepernick, I think if we give RG3 time in the pocket, I think that he's going to tear us apart again if we try to play conservative up front. And when quarterbacks have time, and it seems like this isn't just this year, it always seems like our weakness is the middle of the field.
Middle of the field, and it's always when we play a top-tier quarterback, too.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. What do you think we need to do offensively? I wasn't real impressed with the Redskin defense, but again, too, I don't know if we can get a fair read on that defense because of the way Chip Kelly was running the offense. I mean, they weren't doing any situational substitutions. They were trying to keep up with that fast tempo. But that brings me to, I mean, Rodgers can run that up-tempo 2-minute offense, and when we do it, when the Packers do that, we seem to have some success. So do you think that McCarthy might take a little bit of the playbook out of Chip Kelly's and run that up-tempo offense? Because it didn't look like the Redskins responded well to it at all.
Yeah, the Redskins struggled a lot last year in the passing game, and I think that's what the Packers need to do, and they need to go up-tempo, and they need to throw it around the field. And